Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we want to conquer the basics of iteration. And so this is the last programming construct that we're going to look at. We looked at sequence, we looked at selection, and now we're going to look at iteration. And there are two main types that we look at when it comes to programming in Python. So, so the first one we're going to look at is for loops. So the new keyword we're going to look at is for. So there's a few things here that we need to consider. So first of all, we're learning a new keyword for. The I here is very important, and we'll explain that in a second. And then we have something else here, another function called range, which we'll try to make sense of. And just like in an if statement, just like in selection, what we have is indented code. So the indented block of code here are the instructions that we want to carry out for a particular amount of times. Now, there are two different types of loop that we use in Python or in any programming language. One of them is a for loop, which is a count controlled iteration, which means that we know how many times our code is going to iterate. Let's go to our editor. Okay, so to begin with, like we said, we start by adding the keyword for, and now the letter I here is what's known as a local variable, and this doesn't have to be I. Okay, this can be set to any variable name, except it really shouldn't be a variable name that you've already used. And obviously it can't also be a reserved word like for, like print, like if, so on and so forth, right? Let's say, for example, I've got a string here. Let's say word equals hello, okay? And I can say for I in word, and then I say print I. And you can see what I haven't done is nested here, right? So here you can see we're saying for I in word. Now word, as we know, is a string. And what we mean by I is for every single object in I, or for example, every single character in I. So I could change I to make more sense. So I could say for letter, oh, I forgot the keyword in, my bad. So for letter in word, print I. Now if I was to run that, it's going to run, it says I is not defined. Oh, that's right. My mistake. Because I changed the local variable here from I to letter. So that would mean that I have to change it to letter here as well. So now when I click on run, you can see that what it's done is it's printed each single letter on a new line, because obviously a print statement prints on a new line. Okay. So it makes sense that I've renamed the local variable here from I to letter, because I'm referring to letters in a string, okay, or characters in a string. And the other thing I showed you earlier was the keyword range. So that function allows us to specify a number or two numbers from one to another. So I could say, for example, from 0 to 5. And what that should do is that should print from 0, not to 5. Well, it goes up until 5, but not including. So that should go from 0 to 4, right? So I could say run. And as you can see, now it's 0, 1, 2, 3. And I should change that from letter, because they're no longer letters. I could say, for example, number. And so my local variable could now be called number. Or I can just keep it as not as I. It doesn't really matter. So if I run it again, same thing again. Interestingly, the range allows me to go from a number up until a particular number. So for example, I could change that from, let's say, 6 to 12. And like we said, it should go up until 12, but not including 12. So that would be from 6 to 11, right? I could give one number, so I didn't have to give an argument of 2. So you can see here I've got a comma, which separates the 6 and the 12, which basically means that I'm giving the range function 2 arguments. I'm saying from 6 to 12, yeah? But I could change that. I could just say loop 5 times. So if I just give it one number, it just means loop 5 times. So it still starts from 0, but the point is that it's looped 5 times. So with a for loop, the program loops for the amount of times that we specify. Now, like we may not even know sometimes how many times it has to be looped, but we still call it a count controlled loop because we know our limit. So let's say, for example, if word was hello world, right? Now I've got more characters, including the space, right? So if I was to say for I in, let's go back to word. If I type in word, now I might not know how many characters there are, but I know it's going to happen for as many times as there are characters in my string here. So now if I say, let's just call that I for now, because I keep changing from numbers to characters. So I is fine. And you can see it's iterated over the string, including the space, like I said. So this is what we call a count controlled loop. But there are times when we don't know how many times something should loop, right? So sometimes what we might want is a program to loop infinite amount of times. And let's give a real world example. Let's say, for example, you're boiling a kettle and you want your program to take a thermometer reading and you want it to check the temperature of the water every second or every 2 seconds, and you want it to stop once it reaches 100 degrees Celsius. Now, if you have a very powerful kettle, maybe it will boil in 10 seconds. If you have a weak kettle, or maybe you don't have enough power going to your kettle, maybe your kettle will take 1 minute or 2 minutes to boil. So in that case then, we don't know how long a program will run. So we would use what's known as a while loop. Okay, and let's give an example of a while loop. I'm going to give an example here. Let's give a variable called count equals 0. And we'll say while count is less than 10. So while count is less than 10, we want to print count. Now, if I was to run this, my program is going to be stuck in an infinite loop because I've told it that count is 0, and I've said that while count is less than 0, I want you to keep printing count. Now, the problem with that is I haven't included a method for count to increase in my code. So in other words, it will continue doing it forever. So I've got to find a way for that while loop to escape, to end. So I'm going to say count equals count plus 1. So every time we print count, we also increase the number of count by 1. So when it goes back round to meet this, to check this condition again, so it does a test for us, it says while count is less than 10, we've increased count by 1, and it's going to check, hey, is count now still less than 10? If it is less than 10, then it will do this operation again. Otherwise, it will stop running this block of code, this indented block of code. So if I run that now, we should go from 0 to 9. Okay. Now I'm only looking at these in a really basic way. So I'm not over expanding on any of these points because I don't want this first lesson to be confusing. But as always, guys, please look at the link in the description, and that should take you to my website, my Notion page, which will have loads of activities for you to practice. It will summarize it again, and you'll have lots of practice to apply the learning that you've got here. All right, so any questions, drop it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on the next video.